Test.
And then first time.
Test, test. Test, test.
Melissa, I think we can hear you on the YouTube channel now. Speak again, we heard testing.
Testing, testing, testing.
Oh, hours? Okay, can you hear me?
Testing, testing, testing. Right now, yeah. We have a while because I have to speak with the presentation. Okay. Apologize for that technical delay. Good evening to the board, members of the public, school administrators, and anyone who's listening at home on YouTube. Before we get to our presentation, which I believe you will enjoy this evening, I do want to say a few words on a personal and professional level. I actually was excited about today. September 10th. That'll be the first session, and then on Friday, October 1st, that'll be the second dose. And that clinic will run here from 3 to 6. And that information will go out from myself and the 4 other superintendents later this week. There'll be a registration process. And any families that may want to take advantage of that, that's a family decision, that's up to you, but I'll provide the information, and if you're interested in it, you certainly can access this clinic here if you're interested. Okay, just a couple other bullet points here. That these are things that we've talked about, some of them in previous meetings, and I just want to make sure that these are emphasized here. So our screening form, we've discussed this. We'll be sending out a Genesis form for one acknowledgement for families this year that they will screen their children for signs and symptoms. One big change this year is last year, if you recall, we would send out those COVID letters every time there was a positive case in the building. We will no longer be doing that. It's not required. If your child is impacted or an employee is impacted by COVID, we will notify those individuals directly. We will not be sending out blanket letters to the community. We have a medical advisory committee that I'm really looking forward to working with. It's a variety of local healthcare professionals, including pediatricians, family practice doctors, emergency room doctor, infectious disease specialists, nurses, a nurse practitioner, and our public health officer. And the nice thing about this medical advisory committee is it's all physicians that live within our community. So we have representation from each one of our towns. And these people have a genuine interest in working with us to help us guide us and assist with some health and safety decisions that we may be faced with. So that's a really great thing to have. And I really want to thank those people from our community for offering their services. And then later in the presentation, I will kind of sum things up with that comparison chart that shows you a quick reference guide to take a look at last year and this year, the differences in some of the operational pieces of our building. And this is where I turn it over to my colleagues, and between the 4 of us, we will be providing a tag team presentation here.
Thanks, Amy. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ryan Booth, the Director of Curriculum. I'm more than happy to kind of turn the tables here and start talking about instruction, which is kind of my forte. And just a shout out to my instructional supervisors. These people are kind of like behind the scenes. They're not out front of everything. They're the experts. They're the ones that get down and dirty with the teachers. They don't ask their staff to do anything they don't do themselves, and they all teach themselves. So Laura Drago's here, Greg Ashoff, Stacy Desai, Jason Lerner, and back in our tech booth is Lisa Swanik. And you won't see their names a lot. You'll see me coming up here to talk, but trust me that I cannot be successful at all, and I cannot do any of the things that are on these things without their help. So kudos to them, and I thank them for being here tonight. So remote instruction. This is what the governor said. I'm just going to read it. That second line is the important one. The LEA, which is basically us or the district, should be prepared to offer virtual or remote instruction to those students in a manner commensurate with in-person instruction to the extent possible. So that means we do not have to provide a certain type of instruction, but we need to provide something that is within our limits as a district, and it is specific to districts. So who qualifies for this remote type of instruction or support? So it has to be COVID related. So a travel quarantine, which we don't have any of them right now, but if that would be the case, that would not qualify. Someone who's just sick, a regular sick day, is out for a day or two, that does not qualify. These are very, very specific to COVID-19. So if it's an exposure, school-related or outside exposure, any student, a class of students, a group of students that are required to quarantine, anything at all, and of course, if someone is diagnosed with COVID. So that is what this applies to. So we have a district planning team, which we have teachers, we have administrators, we have and school staff we talked to, some of the supervisors I talked to. We all spoke about this. What are we going to do for the students who have to quarantine or who have to stay home for 10 days or so. The nurse has found out there's a COVID situation and they're going to stay home. I have to admit, we were not unanimous on this. This is a tough one, but we did come to a consensus. First of all, we wanted to prioritize in-person instruction. We did not in any way want the teachers to go back to teaching the way it was back in March. We did not want them glued to a screen, standing in front of the screen, everybody on their computers in a Zoom call. We wanted to give them full advantage of the activities, the in-person relationships with the students, walking around, all that type of movement. We did not want to sacrifice in-person instruction. That being said, we decided to go with asynchronous learning with the classroom teaching. That means the student will not log into a live class when they're at home. That means all the assignments, any notes, if anything was videotaped, would be posted in Google Classroom. They'll have access to that in Google Classroom. They can still reach out to the teacher before and after school, ask for questions. They still will be focused with their main teacher as a form of instruction. However, we didn't want students to fall through the cracks. We didn't want students just to check out for 10, 14 days, however long, and the next thing you know, they're falling behind and failing. So we came up with a plan, and we're very, very happy to be able to offer this opportunity. We're going to use certified teachers to provide support during the day for those students who are quarantined. So these students will have access to the support, guidance, accountability of certified teachers to pose questions to provide support, tutoring, to help them, guide them through this time until they can be back to in person. And I'm going to give you more information about that in a little bit. Their absences would be medically excused, would be marked down. So they're excused from in-person attendance. They will attend a separate independent bell schedule. So they will not be attending their regular classes. Remember, those classes are being taught in person. They're going to follow a separate schedule, and the next slide will give you an example of a tentative schedule we have. And they'll have remote instructors. They will go into the Zoom and they will take attendance. They will follow up with the students. If students aren't attending, we'll find out why. Is everything okay? There will be follow-up, whether it's guidance counselors or the remote instructor. So to give you an idea of what this looks like, and I'll have Dr. Donalevy and Susan Diliberto talk a little bit about what it looks like in their building, but this is a tentative schedule of what it could look like.
Hello, everyone. Maybe I'm not, I think I am. We're actually hoping that with the new guidance for quarantine, that this will actually impact middle students. We stand by the idea that there's no substitute for seat time and students sitting in class. The structure is and this slide is pretty self-explanatory. If a student does have to quarantine for some reason, it does look like there's two high school schedules there, but it's really a student and his teachers just have to work out which class they're going to attend that day. But those are when those supports would be running. I do want to reiterate that we are staffing these supports with these tutoring sessions with former West Essex teachers, so retired West Essex teachers. They're very familiar with the curriculum. They're veteran teachers. They're expert teachers, and they already have a line of communication open with most of our staff. Do you have anything you want to add?
Good evening. I have a couple things to add from the middle school perspective. So, for example, if you're looking at block 4, for example, math, in the middle school, all students would attend this one Zoom link for math, but perhaps there might be a breakout session that will allow them to work with their peers who are in a similar course or grade level. And depending on the numbers, we are hoping that they're low. It is possible a student could have one-on-one help. It all just depends on the number of students that we're talking about. But this is a genuine structure. The other thing I wanted to point out is, as much as we plan, we all know that no child is the same. Every child is very different. So especially at the middle school, we'll monitor each one of our, of our students, our counselors, child study team members are great in helping us monitor our students, and we'll monitor and adjust as needed. Thank you.
And I also want to add that while the expectation is that students attend these, that students are by no means banned from contacting their teacher. Their teacher is still there for them, and they contact their teacher if they need additional support, but there's just not an expectation on a teacher that the teacher is going to reteach material that was taught in class.
So is it tug of war between each other? Unit lunch is going to run at the middle school. We will have 2 locations for lunch. So some students will eat in the cafeteria, some students will eat in the small gym, which will be set up like a cafeteria. We'll have cafeteria tables. We'll also have kiosks for food. Much of the food this year will be pre-bagged, if you will, or in containers. So there will be some grab-and-go options. We are certainly promoting bag lunch, or to be ordering ahead using the Pay Central's website. So that's an option to order ahead through Pontonia. In terms of lunch at the middle school, we're a little bit different from the high school. Lunch is just under 60 minutes, but it's at the middle school split. So half of, one grade, our 7th graders will eat first, while the 8th grade is in what we call lunch study, which is basically a study hall, and then we'll switch. So halfway through, then we switch in that way. So by having lunch studies in classrooms, we allow students to be more socially distanced, and so that will be helpful as well. We also have a beautiful courtyard off the cafeteria that we will be utilizing for mass as well.
So, of course, moving back to almost what's just about a standard unit lunch, we do just want to be cognizant of large volumes of students being together, especially if they're going to be eating and not going to have their masks on. So that is something that we want to be cognizant of when planning for lunch. So specifically here at the high school, both of our courtyards are going to be open, and they were open for most of last year for masks, but that's kind of the one behind the auditorium here, and the other one that's in what we call a horseshoe with 700 or 800 wings. Both of those will be open. We also have expanded the red cafeteria, which is not this one, that's the further one, into some adjacent office space, and there's going to be high top tables there. We're also keeping the high top tables that we had in what we call Times Square. They're in the hallway there, just to spread out and give some more eating options. So we will be providing those tables in the upcoming weeks. A few other things that we are introducing, and these have actually been in the works for a couple of years, so reducing the numbers in during the lunch is not going to be impetus for these next 2. But the secret privileges were, I guess, officially unveiled last week and pretty well received. I'll talk a little bit more about those later, but one of them is that seniors get to leave, it's an open campus for lunch. So that will probably help to reduce the numbers a little bit. And we also have lunch activities that we also implemented, started back in 2019, actually, just a few months before March and COVID came. And they were very well received too. We've opened the back gym for basketball, can jam, ping pong. We had a rest and relaxation room. We even opened the track. Students wanted to go and walk around the track. So we will also be opening those lunch activities as well.
As Damien's coming up, I just wanted to add one more thing. We also have a few activities at the middle school as well, as a reminder me. We have our Mindful Mondays, which are optional. Again, our counselors work with students who opt in to participate in these activities. We also have our librarian, Catherine Spinella, who did some really fun activities with her students as well. And I also wanted to thank Melissa Kita, because we were also able to purchase some additional lunch tables that will just allow us more seating and allow us the ability to socially distance a bit more than in the past.
Okay, so this comparison chart is a quick reference guide. I think it really gives you a great visual aid on a quick snapshot of last year versus this year. You can go down the left-hand side and you can see some of the items and the differences between last year and this year. So most significant is last year we had 4 half days of in-person instruction and 1 full virtual day. The great thing about this year is it's 5 full days of school with lunch. So I think that is something that is really exciting for our kids and our staff. So I've expanded the list today. I'll just kind of go through these slides. Again, this presentation will be emailed out this week to all of our families. It will also be accessible on our website. Okay, just some other items that are on here. Last year, some things that stick out. We weren't able to access locker rooms. This year you can. You just have to have a mask. We had directional hallways and arrows and different signage. This year, we will not have the extent of those signs and hallway markings. Daily temperature checks last year. We're not doing those this year. Another significant change is the monthly form to a yearly form, and we're going to try to execute a lot of these different things in person. Okay, faculty meetings, department meetings. Last year, pretty much all of our professional development was virtual. This year, we're hoping to be able to do a combination of both. Board meetings, it's great to be back in person. There's still will be contact tracing, quarantining, and again, another significant change is the community letters will no longer go out for positive cases. Okay, some other items. Some of these we went over at the last meeting, but last year we pretty much didn't have any visitors in the building. This year, it'll be visitors by appointment, and we'll work with those families to, whoever's comfortable to come in. We're willing to have those visitors in person. Right now, we have all intentions on doing an in-person back to school night. Okay. We'll obviously continue to monitor that, and the principals will, be communicating out to families on how that might work. Okay. Last year, all of our parent-teacher conferences, 504 meetings, IEP meetings, they were pretty much all virtual. This year, we'll be doing a combination of both. And the last 3 items there: yes, 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 and yes, yes, yes. So that's another great thing that we'll be executing all those in-person standardized tests. And I want to thank the administrators for being one of, not too many schools in our county that was able to do that last year. My daughter didn't get to take the PSATs at her high school. Too bad I couldn't bring her over here, see her in the back door, but so thanks for doing that. And again, as always, this form is subject to change. Okay? And now we get to talk about the good stuff, teaching and learning. Okay, this is kind of a common phrase that you'll hear throughout the year, and this is something that we're really excited to shift our focus to. And tonight, for the board, my team will be presenting you with our district goals for the year, and they're up there on the screen. And goal number 1 is using data to improve student outcomes, and goal number 2 is improving school climate and culture. And we feel that every school district should have at least one goal that is focused around student or academic achievement. And we also need to have a goal around climate and culture, because students need to feel comfortable in their environment. The more comfortable they feel, the higher level of learning that will occur. So they go hand in hand with each other. We have 2 groups of teams that have been working diligently to prepare for next year, and you'll hear a little bit more about that in our presentation. We have a data team that's composed of teachers and administrators, and we're working with an outside consultant that we've partnered with, and I'll have Brian talk a little bit more about that. And for climate and culture, we also partnered with an outside agency that we'll be working with a district committee, and that committee is teachers and different employees on our staff, and it will also expand to members of our community. We will be asking for parent volunteers, and we will also be recruiting students to be part of that committee. So with that said, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Gupta.
and we'll talk about goal number 1.
All right, using data. I love this one. And it's great to work with the staff that all loves data too. So before you think of data just as, oh, he's going to harp on standardized test scores, let me just give you an idea of what we mean when we're talking about student data. Any of these things can be student data. Obviously, you're familiar with standardized tests, but we can look at things like attendance records and student demographics, small formative assessments that teachers use and kind of gauge what's going on in the classroom, observing student behavior, performances, homework, surveys, pre-assessments will be huge. All of that are different forms of data. And we like to look at as many forms of data as we can to make decisions. So we've been talking about data for quite some time. Maybe some of you, but we've had board meetings in the past where we said, people have come up and said, what are you guys going to do to identify these learning deficiencies and gaps that you know these kids are going to have from all the lack of in-person instruction, the loss of instructional time. So data is going to be key to that. We'll talk a little bit about pre-assessments. I'll let the principals talk about what that's going to look like in their buildings. But we're going to use pre-assessments to identify learning gaps. And that data is going to be used. Some kids are going to be stronger than others. Some subject areas were able to cover some content that maybe other subject areas or other teachers were not able to. We need to find that out right away. We need to find out where the kids are in order to figure out where they're going to grow to and where they need to be at the end of the year. So we're going to use it for student growth. We're going to use it to inform instruction, find any trends. As Mr. Chochi mentioned, we put together a data team. We actually put it together March of 2020. And we actually partnered with Teach for Results and Dr. Tracy Severance back in March 2020. We were gung-ho, ready to go, and of course, as you know, the closure happened. So we put that group back together. Administrators, teachers of every content area. This isn't just a math thing, an ELA thing. It involves the arts, it involves PE and health, it involves all of our subject areas. We even have support staff on that committee. Something else we had to do, if you're going to collect this data and we're going to ask our teachers to use this data, we better provide them with a tool that's going to do it well and do it efficiently and timely. So we partnered with a company called Linkit. They will be providing benchmark assessments, so you might hear in the near future that your students or your child took a Linkit assessment. So that's a term you're going to hear more often. But the big part about Linkit that we like, we can use to collect all of the data, store all the data in one place, and the key there is providing timely data analysis and reports to our teachers and our staff. If we wait for the NJSLA reports to come back to us, by the time we get them, it's already too late to change things in the classroom. This will allow us to change things right away, and it would allow us to measure growth periodically and more often throughout the year than just once a year like NJSLA. We've already gotten involved with summer data workshops. We had some a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to turnkey the training for that to all staff on September 2nd. And then, as with everything, this isn't a one-time deal. It's ongoing PD. We've already scheduled Dr. Tracy Severance to come throughout the year and provide support and training for our teachers. So that's going to look a little different, so I'm going to bring up the principals. Ms. Delbro is going to go first and tell you what that's going to look like for high school.
I think it's worth mentioning that these aren't two district goals that we just invented. They've been district goals for a while. But after last year, the past year and a half, we feel it's really important to renew our dedication and focus for a sustained effort towards the goals. And all of the upcoming professional development, and as Mr. Gupta said, all upcoming professional development, whether it's in faculty meetings, department meetings, will all be addressing these two goals. And working together with administration and teachers and the board, I have no doubt that we can return to, as Damien said, and as I've said before, better than normal. So for goal number 1, using data, the teachers received really good training in recent weeks, and upcoming professional development during the year will continue to focus on data-driven instruction. At the classroom level, some great data collection and analysis practices were shared, especially in the form of formative assessments, and our teachers are preparing to present to colleagues this week and beyond. At the administrative level, we are administering universal standardized pre-assessments for ELA, math, science, and social studies during the opening weeks of school. The primary purpose for these pre-assessments is to identify any learning gaps or learning deficiencies that have occurred, especially in the past year and a half. The results are just about instantaneous. They're immediate. That way, our teachers can use all that data to plan instruction accordingly.
So just to complement that, at the middle school, we're concerned with proficiency, but we're also concerned with growth. When we say the word growth, we're talking about how a student does or how they perform compared to themselves. So at the middle school, this is a focus for us. We in particular, Lisa Tambier and I had several conversations for at least the last year, the best way to do that, and we feel very confident in using Linkit. And in particular, we will be giving a benchmark assessment using the Linkit assessment feature, and that will be given in early September, around September 22nd and 23rd. So we feel that the sooner we can get this data and get the data to our teacher, it will allow us to not guess at where students may be, right? The data will tell us exactly what our students do or do not know, and allow us to adjust our teaching and our instruction accordingly.
It's just great to be talking about educational business, and as you can see, our team is really excited about this, and we wanted to present this together because we all believe in it. I know the board believes in our goals this year, and we're just super excited. So goal number 2, improve school culture and climate. This is a goal that it's super important because without students feeling comfortable in their environment, with students feeling comfortable in the environment, that they'll perform better. So this is what this is all about. And we have a district committee that we've been working with, and we are partnering with St. Elizabeth University and the School Culture and Climate Initiative. And we've met, our committee met with a couple different outside groups. We selected this group, and we're about to embark on a 3-year mission with them. And I'll turn it over to my colleagues here, and we will kind of explain to you how we plan on rolling out this initiative.
So the Culture and Climate Initiative comes highly regarded from many neighboring districts. And this is one of their slides. And so in the middle you can see they're referencing thriving schools and students. And basically what they're saying is that the 4 outer circles all have to be working synergistically, if you will, in order to get schools and students to thrive at their maximum capacity. So you're talking about having a positive culture and climate, having organized and coordinated school efforts, and also referencing student and staff health, as well as social emotional skills. So they all have to be working together in combination with making data-informed decisions and ongoing professional development. This is what they call a competency wheel, and this is really what the initiative will focus on. If you look at the inner components of self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making, self-management, all of those are components of what we will be looking at. And as we dive deeper into those, this is how it breaks down. So in the top left corner, that's referencing self-awareness. So for self-awareness, we want students to be able to identify their own emotions, recognize their strengths. For social awareness, that's the second green box, we want students to have empathy. For relationship skills, conflict resolution is especially important at the middle school. And then shifting over to the right, self-management would be, goal setting, organizational skills, which also takes time at the middle school to learn those skills. And then finally, responsible decision making. We're looking at identifying problems, analyzing them, and solving them. So these are all of the components of the SEL competencies. Yes, Jeanette?
Great, Mayor. My name is Tanya Simmons. I just want to go back to the CASEL competency. I think it's really important to know that this is not a curriculum. Social emotional learning is a process, and we as educators are always focused on working with students, with adolescents. It's really human development. And so the goal of this process is to take some data, there will be a collection of data and of surveys, and to use that to provide professional development to our teachers so that this and these competencies become a part of our everyday conversation in the classrooms. It's not separate lessons, but it's empowering our faculty to encourage this in our students throughout the year, throughout every lesson.
And I just want to give a few examples. At the middle school, when we are talking about the SEL companies, a couple things that come into mind. We have our We Lead peer leadership program. It's starting tomorrow. We're super excited to see all the kids back. But that's an example of something that we've kind of monitored and adjusted, and we feel that that is specifically targeting, the competencies of giving these skills, our students the skills that they need. Another example would be our transition activities that we do the first several days of school in our classroom to help our students, especially our 7th graders, get adjusted.
What I want to say is actually relative to this slide. So, prior to COVID actually hitting, the high school was doing a lot with regards to climate and culture. We're performing plenty of climate and culture type of tasks in partnership with Sustainable Jersey for Schools. And prior to that, we were even doing it with our wellness initiative that was actually Tanya Simmons' brainchild going back 4 or 5 years. And that's actually what spawned our peer leader program, a speaker series, and even some counseling groups that have been in effect for a couple of years. But I do want to ask everybody to consider this for a moment when we talk about climate and culture. We have 1,100 students at the high school. Last year, our top attendance in a single day was 400 students. So we have a significant percentage of students who are coming here who have never spent any significant time in the building. We have juniors who are coming to this building that barely have a half of a year of instruction. So I imagine that there's going to be some anxiety about returning to in-person instruction. It's going to be a challenge. This upcoming year is going to be a challenge to reacclimate and reintegrate our students to the building. But it's also a tremendous opportunity because the culture that was West Essex prior to a year and a half ago is almost non-existent. So with the help of you, the entire community, and our students, and especially our seniors, peer leaders, we can really recreate the culture of the building into what we had always hoped it would be. So I'm really thinking of this year as a great opportunity to recreate the culture of the school to be whatever we imagine it to be. Of course, the survey that we completed at St. Elizabeth's will prompt some actions or programs, but we're also returning some existing programs to their original splendor, like the peer leader program, of which I'm a huge supporter, and they do some fantastic things. In fact, right now they've been here for a few hours, and they're probably calling freshmen to personally invite them to freshman orientation tomorrow. So that's just what I want to talk about with high school with regards to climate culture. Oh my goodness. So here's a few updates that are unique just to the high school. As I just mentioned, freshman orientation hosted by We Unite, the West Essex Peer Leader Program, is tomorrow, August 31st. We have about 60 peer leaders that started the application process back in the spring. And lately they've been training and doing lots of team building. And as I said, right now they're probably calling freshmen to invite them to freshman orientation tomorrow. Senior privileges, I suppose, were officially unveiled last week. So we are piloting 2 new senior privileges. And then the operative word here is really piloting. We're just trying them out. We're not committing to them for the duration of the year or saying that this is how it's going to be from here on out. So the first one is the late arrival and early dismissal. So again, these are for seniors only. and they're not going to be in effect the first week of school. So if a senior has a study hall that happens to fall during block 1 on that day, then they can come in late. Similarly, if they have a study hall that falls during block 6, they can depart a little early. The second senior privilege is the open campus for lunch. Of course, as with any senior privileges, like senior service, senior parking, eligibility is contingent upon a few things: good academic standing, attendance, and of course, discipline can remove someone from senior privileges. Eligibility for senior privileges can be revoked for any of those reasons. We also, I have a disclaimer here, reserve the right to terminate the program for all if for whatever reason it's not working. Like, I don't expect this at all, but if, for example, the safety in the parking lot was compromised during lunch, which we don't expect because we've seen how they exit when they don't have to beat the traffic of everybody else picking up their kids, and it's usually fine. So, but if it were compromised for some reason, we would probably terminate the program. There will be sign-up procedures for both senior privileges using ID cards. Of course, it's not going to be like a mass exodus. And specific eligibility criteria, procedures, and parental consent will all be emailed out in the upcoming weeks. And some may ask, why? Well, why is administration being so great? To what do we owe this benevolence? And really, it's just because seniors are, 17 going at 18 years old. We really feel that after doing 5 years in the district that they've earned the right to make some decisions for themselves and what they can do, how they can use their time most wisely. So if they feel it's beneficial to sleep an extra half hour and come a little late, terrific, have at it. If they want to go home before football practice and have some milk and cookies, terrific, have at it. So those are our 2 senior privileges that we'll be implementing probably about midway through the first marking period sometime in October. A few facility updates. Of course, you saw our auditorium, the exterior of our auditorium when you walked in. Looks fantastic. I have to give a lot of accolades to our buildings and grounds crew. They are such terrific craftsmen. They work so fast and so well. LEDs, of course. Anytime there's construction or remodeling anywhere, the whole area is refitted with LEDs, which of course saves money and consumes a lot less electricity than we were using. One of the coolest traditions in West Essex is our senior murals. I don't know how many people have had a chance to see our senior murals, but every year since 1989, I think it is, the senior class paints a mural. At some point in the 90s, they started signing them, and in recent years, they've even gotten more creative, and the mural becomes almost like a time capsule for the year. So the class of 2020 and the class of 2021 are now being put on, instead of painting the wall directly, which is what was happening, they're now being painted on mounted frames. They're the same size, but this way, nothing ever happens to them. We can preserve them. So in addition to the 2, the class of 2020 and the class of 2021, that are being created right now, we are also going to actively try to transfer, and we haven't figured out how to do this yet, so please don't curse me on it, transfer the old ones to something portable as well. That way, as we do building upgrades, as we paint, or if there's something in a wall that we need to get to, we're not sacrificing the artwork and the legacies of our alumni. So we're really excited about that. I also have to say, the class of 2020 has no obligation to be here at this point, and they have been in for the past month completing the mural, which the first time they saw it, they showed it to me. It almost like brought a tear to my eye, just like the content of the artwork. So maybe when we're done here, if you want to take a look at it, and the class of 2021, if you come out, make a left as you exit the auditorium, and just go straight down that hallway by guidance, you can see the completed 2020 and 21, and the class of 220 that is It's still in progress, but I love it. It's going to be one of my favorite ones, I think. Speaking of alumni, on October 9th, we are in the planning stages of planning for an alumni day. So Coach Benaquista is honoring 3 different football games at our home football game on that Saturday afternoon. We are also trying to plan some additional games from other sports around that. We are going to invite band alumni to play the national anthem with the band at that football game. And we are also hoping to get the class of 2020 to come in and sign in Durham. So we've got some cool things planned for that day, October 9th. I'm very hopeful that it all comes to fruition. Thank you.
Okay, at the middle school, as I said, we had our open house this morning. Things went well. It was amazing to see students back into the building. They decorated their lockers, things of that nature. It was just really great to see everyone. Tomorrow, as I also mentioned, we have our We Lead 7th grade orientation. This is our first annual peer leadership program. The kids will be outside for the majority of the day, engaging in team building activities with approximately 56 of our 8th grade students. At some point, they'll be back into the building doing a scavenger hunt, and at the same time, while they're doing the scavenger hunt, learning their way around the building. So we're very excited for this program to get up and running tomorrow. We also have 2 tailgates this year. Traditionally, we normally just do a 7th grade tailgate. This year, we're doing one for each grade. So on September 10th, the 8th graders will arrive to the middle school. We'll have a barbecue dinner, like a barbecue meal for them with some burgers, some hot dogs. We then escort them over to the football game. We all sit together in the stands. They wear their class t-shirts, and it's just a really fun way to kind of bring us together as a school community. So this year, again, we're having one on the 10th, and for the 7th graders, it will be on the 17th. And then finally, I just want to say I'm excited about a lot of our new staff members. They're coming to us with a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of experience. They have experience from previous districts, and I think they're going to be a great addition to our team. So we're very excited for the year. Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to say thanks to my administrators for just all your work this summer. To the members of the board, you can see just a tremendous amount of planning and preparation and all the great things that we have in store for the upcoming school year. And I know that I can speak on behalf of my team here that we're just super excited about opening school next week. So thank you for that, and that concludes our presentation for tonight.
Okay. I just want to thank Mr. Machochi, our principals, our entire administrative staff for that very thorough presentation. It's very exciting. We're looking forward to a great school year. I just want to know if any board members have any comments or questions regarding the presentation. Okay. Then we will move on to board committee reports. Do you have any board committee reports?
Yeah, Mary,
Okay, go ahead, Anna.
so the policy committee met on August 25th from 6 p.m. to 6:55 p.m. We met on Google Meets because we wanted to get the policy done right before school. So it was sort of called last minute, and we got it done. In attendance was myself, Tony Rubinich, and Damien Machochi. So we discussed 2 policies. policy 8500, food service, and policy 1648, the road forward. The food service allows for open campus lunch for 12th graders. That was a policy change, so we made sure we got that done. Also, the growth forward is the reopening plan. Tonight we have the second reading of it. The website will have all the details. We discussed the appendices and like I said, it's going to be on the website, and that is one policy that normally people don't like to read policies, but I would suggest reading that one. It has all the details and probably answers a lot of questions. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Ann. Does anyone have any board members have any questions on policy? Okay, Deb, you have a curriculum.
So the curriculum committee met on August 24th. In attendance was Mr. Gupta, Mr. Machochi, Ms. Marcus, Ms. Skelton, and myself. Mr. Gupta presented the new curriculum for 21-22. The committee discussed the AP research course, the AP capstone diploma program, and to discuss how the AP programs was going to follow for this year. District plans for the 21-22 committee members, we reviewed the professional development plan for the teachers and all of the district goals that Mr. Machochi and the team presented this evening. It was, as Mr. Machochi has been saying, it was good to finally discuss academics and to be able to prepare for the students to be here full time. At the end of the day, we have to remember that that's what we're here for, and it was great just knowing that the team here at West Essex is going full force ahead and making a chock-full day for these students. On another hand, when the board comments, I just want to say it's nice to see that the seniors are getting special privileges. I went here many, many years ago, and we kept fighting and fighting for privileges, and they kept saying, no, 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 once on campus, never take a foot off campus. I don't even think we were even allowed to go outside at certain times of the day. So it's nice to see that as everything evolves, that we respect our children, and we hope that they live up to our expectations and that they earn this privilege. So it's nice to see that our academics and our school culture is going in a great direction for the next year. So I applaud all the administrative team.
Thanks, Deb. Do we have any other board committee reports? Are there any comments from the board? Okay, at this time we will move on to public comments. We will open the floor for public comments on agenda items only. Please remember that agenda items are the items that we will be voting upon this evening. In accordance with bylaw 0167, a copy of which is available on our district's website, the board will open the meeting for public comments. Please remember to announce your name, place of residence, and group affiliation if appropriate. Your statements will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. Melissa, our business administrator, will set the timer for 3 minutes. Please be considerate of others who may wish to speak and have the opportunity. No participant may speak more than once until all others have had the chance or opportunity to speak. Any comments or questions regarding the presentations tonight should wait until our second public comment section. All statements should be directed to me as the presiding officer, and no one may address the board individually. Any specific questions or concerns regarding your individual child should be directed to their teacher, supervisor, or building principals. Comments regarding students or employees are discouraged and will not be addressed by this board. So at this time, do we have any questions on agenda items? If so, you can come up to the microphone here, sign in with your name and address, and you can state your name and address to us, please. Sign your statement is regarding an agenda item that we're voting on this evening?
Masks? I don't know.
No, that's not an agenda item.
How about any, I don't know, what do you want to pick?
Okay, so if you don't have a question or comment regarding what we're voting on this evening,
What are you voting on
you
this
can,
evening?
our agenda, there's agendas outside.
Okay, this is the curriculum. This is the kids in school that can't breathe. I can't talk about that?
That can
Is
wait for
anyone
a
else
second
talking
public
about
comment
anything about
section.
masks or? Okay, let's wait till after.
Are there any other agenda item questions? Or did you get any on Google Forms? No. Okay, then we will move on to our agenda. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes, sir. Please sign into the form and state your name and address for us.
My name is Robert Rosani. I live in 4 Allison Drive in Fairfield. So, you said that for screenings, we will be...
Okay, I'm sorry. Right now, we're only taking questions on the items we will be voting upon this evening.
But it was an agenda item that you brought up in your...
Okay, that was a part of the presentation. Those questions have to wait till our second public comment section.
Oh,
The agenda items are the items that were on the paper outside and we'll be voting upon this evening.
okay.
Okay? Thank you. We would gladly hear you when we come to our second comment section. Okay. Tony, do you want to take finance?
The finance motions are made at the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. Anything placed on this agenda, items 1 through 6, will be voted upon in one motion, and I so move.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Melissa, you can call the roll.
Your feedback is in the back of you. That's where the feedback's coming from. Because everything's off back here. Melissa.
Okay.
So if someone's not talking, they should shut their microphone off.
All right, I'll just call this one. Miss Egan? Yes. Miss Fahey?
Yes.
Miss Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. Rubinich?
Yes.
Miss Calderon? Yes. Miss Calvin is not. Mr. Stampone?
Yes.
Miss Wadsworth?
Yes.
Melissa, I have to abstain, I forgot, because the feedback was getting in there. Number 3 and 4, I have to abstain. Sorry about that.
Cindy, do you want to take personnel, please?
The following personnel motions are made at the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. Anything placed on this agenda, items 1 through 24, will be voted upon in one motion, and I so move.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Melissa, you can call the roll.
Miss Egan?
Yes.
Miss Fahey?
Yes.
Miss Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. Rubinich?
Yes.
Miss Calderon?
Yes.
And Mr. Stampone? Mr. Stampone?
Yes.
Miss Wadsworth?
Yes. Jill, do you want to take curriculum?
Following curriculum special education motions are made with recommendation of the superintendent of schools. Anything placed on this agenda, items 1 through 6, will be voted upon in one motion, and I so move.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Marcus? Mr. Rubinich?
Yes.
Ms. Calderon?
Yes.
Mr. Stampone?
Yes.
Ms. Blodgett?
Yes. Deb, do you want to take miscellaneous?
Sure. The following miscellaneous motions are made at the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. Anything placed on this agenda, items 1 through 7, will be voted upon in one motion or so moved.
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I just want to comment to thank the administration for the presentation on the district goals this year. It was a very good presentation.
Anyone else? Elizabeth, you can roll.
Ms. Egan?
Yes.
Ms. Fahey?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. Rubinich?
Yes.
Ms. Calderon?
Yes.
Mr. Stampone?
Yes.
Ms. Blodgett?
Yes. Okay, this time I will open up the floor again for public comments on non-agenda items. Please remember to state your name, address, and your affiliation if appropriate. Please remember that you will be limited to 3 minutes for duration. And let's come to the podium again.
Your mic wasn't on.
No? Okay. Can you hear me any better? Yeah, yes. Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty.
Once again, my name is Robert Rosanna, 4 Allison Drive, Fairfield, New Jersey. Just wanted to bring back a couple of concerns that I had about the last board meeting, where the board stated and made clear
I'm
that
sorry,
you...
let me interrupt you. I think that microphone's not working.
I don't want to get too close to it.
Can anyone in the audience hear you?
Can everybody hear me? Okay, perfect. So I have some concerns about the last meeting, where you as a board claimed that you were taking orders from the governor, the CDC, and the health department. I want to make a couple of statements here, and then I have some questions. We people are not the executive branch of the government, so the executive order is just recommendations, not laws. According to the EO, each district has its own ability to regulate these mandates as they see fit. And it also allows for parents in said EO to write exemptions. From your slideshow during the last board meeting, it showed close to 90% of the teachers and staff were vaccinated. About 50% of the students were also vaccinated. So to me, that appears like herd immunity. There is no evidence wearing masks prevents the spread of the virus. However, there's plenty of evidence that doing so causes harm. You cannot get a virus from someone who does not have a virus. Healthy people should not be wearing masks. It's all right to stand up for the Constitution of the United States of America and protect our kids. Anything short of masks being optional is against our rights. So as I'll tell you now, the teachers union and your funding doesn't hold weight over the rights of parents. This was kind of answered for me today in short, but do you receive any data from the governor, the CDC, or the health department? And if so, who analyzes this data? Do we have set guidelines on when or if we reach herd immunity? Or is this just a fallacy that doesn't exist anymore? How would the board respond if we all just started to take our kids out of school, or send them to school with no masks, or set up protests outside the school and stand up so our voices could be heard for what is right? So, you make it clear today that the parents can screen their kids for COVID, but not exempt them from non-related COVID symptoms, but symptoms that are caused from wearing masks. It makes no sense. Another thing that was in your beautiful presentation today was that we're going from 6 feet to 3 feet with no change in the pandemic. And we're having more cases in August than we've ever had before. Do you understand that you still can catch COVID outside? So by not allowing these kids to social distance in the courtyard, I know where I would be. That's all I have for you. I'd just like you to answer a couple of those simple questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I know you were talking about the mask mandate, and the executive order does mandate mask wearing indoors, so it's not an option, it is a mandate.
It's not a law, it's a mandate, it's not a law.
If you want to get up and speak, you have to come to the microphone. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thanks for answering the rest of my questions.
Oh yeah, did you want to answer his questions first, or?
No, it's okay.
I'd like to hear.
I already know the answers. They're rhetorical.
My name is Larissa O'Shaughnessy. I'm from North Caldwell. I'd like to start by saying that Manasquan is not mandating the masks. They're ignoring the governor mandates because we're free people and we can do that. I'm not going to get into the science or facts about masks, just to watch the board members' eyes glaze over. We've all seen the pictures of the mask docs. We know the masks don't prevent coronavirus. We all know by now that the pores in the mask are larger than the droplets carrying SARS-CoV-2. Science and facts don't matter here. We're here again because the people on the board, elected officials, are unwilling to stand up and oppose these sick, abusive mask mandates for our children. The mask mandates coming from Governor Murphy. Governor Murphy, who went on national television and admitted the Bill of Rights is above my pay grade, has decided our children, who are the least vulnerable to COVID, need to be masked in school. I just saw pictures of him again in public, not social distancing, not wearing a mask, in a restaurant with strangers. He's not afraid and he's not following his own orders. Maybe he's pushing the narrative because New Jersey has received the 8th largest pot of federal money compared to other states. Maybe this is all about funding. I did see that part of the relief act for schools involved compliance to mandates. Is that the driving force to masking our children? I hope not, but I'm sure the truth will be exposed eventually, and that has nothing to do with controlling the virus that's milder than the flu, which we've never masked children for. Let's look at another Murphy mandate for our schools. Earlier this year, Murphy signed into law another bill mandating that students should be able to identify oral, vaginal, and anal sex by 8th grade, and that teachers should explain common human sexual development like romantic and sexual feelings and masturbation. Meaning he thinks adult teachers should be teaching 5th graders who are minors about masturbation, which is grooming and sexual abuse. So our benevolent governor has decided schools are an appropriate place to groom children, and that breathing unsafe levels of carbon dioxide are perfectly fine for our children. I think it's time to start pushing back a little against his mandates. That's actually where you people come in. The school board role is to represent the concerns of the citizens, taxpayers, and parents to the school administrators, and to represent the needs of the students and school district to the citizens. Where does it say that your job is to implement whatever our tyrannical, predatory, abusive governor mandates? Is that why you were elected, to weaponize the police against the taxpayers and parents who don't follow King Murphy's decrees, to lock students out who won't wear masks, to literally call the police on parents at board meetings? The same parents who elected you and are taxpayers funding this whole operation? I think you're confused as to what your role is here. You're going to have to do a little better than to sit there and tell us that parents are supposed to be representing, that Governor Murphy's mandating it. We know that. Your job is to represent us, not the governor. And if you won't do it, then resign and get out of our way. You won't fight to protect our children, then you're totally unworthy to hold your positions. Not only that, you're complicit in making the school unsafe for our children. That goes for the board, superintendent, and administration. Any of you who remain silent during this fight for our children's safety. Thank you, that's it.
My name's Svetlana, I live in Fairfield.
Okay, can you please sign into the form, please, and then say your name and address again?
We have...
Can you please state your name again for us?
My name is Svetlana, I live in Fairfield. We have all rights and freedom by rights of birth. A group of 25 families filed an appeal in the Superior Court of New Jersey against Governor Murphy and the United States of New Jersey. The Executive Order 251 is unconstitutional in that violates parents and children all of rights under United States and New Jersey Constitution. The governor lacks authority to issue the executive order under the Disaster Control Act. 4 years and a half, your ability and limitedly carry out illegally orders. Tens of thousands of deaths from toxic COVID injections. Hundreds of thousands were injured. Knowing this, you're forcing children to give these experimental injections. It's a crime. You divide children into vaccinated and unvaccinated. This is discrimination. You know that COVID tests don't work, and it's a dangerous procedure. You don't allow children to breathe air. This is a child abuse. You forbid them to see smiles. You forbid them to hug. You teach them to be afraid. You teach them to believe in deception. Have you forgotten that children can have a sore throat, a runny nose, that they can catch a cold? Who are you? Who gave you the right to deprive our children of freedom and life? Remember, the worst thing in life is death and waiting remorse. How can you live with it? Parents, we need to be together to protect our children. That's it.
Good evening. I'm Daniela Colon from Fairfield. Here I have a petition that's signed by many community members in the West Essex community. I'm going to go ahead and read the petition so you guys can, know what it's all about. Governor Murphy's mask mandate is unconstitutional. It is designed to take away our freedom as parents to decide what is best for our children. Executive Order 251 is unconstitutional for the following reasons. The executive order is unconstitutional in that it violates the separation of power clause of the New Jersey Constitution. The governor lacks authority to issue the executive order under the Disaster Control Act. The executive order is unconstitutional in that it violates the parents' and children's substantial due process rights under the U.S. and New Jersey Constitution. It's unconstitutional in that it violates the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. and New Jersey Constitutions. It's unconstitutional in that it violates the parents and children's First Amendment rights under the U.S. and New Jersey Constitution. The decision concerning masks in schools should be left up to local school boards. The following taxpayers in the West Essex community ask that the West Essex School Board write a letter to Governor Murphy asking him to overturn Executive Order 251 and leave the decision about masking students in school up to the local school boards. As elected officials, it's your duty to represent us and make our voices heard. I can't go to Governor Murphy and stand before him like I'm standing before you. You represent us and our kids. Please do what is right for our children. Masks don't work. You know this. We all know this. What kind of parents would we be if we were complacent and didn't try to fight for our kids? Mr. Machochi, I know you're a parent. I know many of you are parents. What kind of parents would we be if we let our freedoms be taken away so easily? Really, what kind of parents would we be? What's next? To put a shot in our kids' arm that we don't want them to get? Okay, we can say it's only masks, but you know what? It was only a yellow star. And that's all I have to say.
So,
Could you just please state your name out loud?
oh, Daniel, North Colwell,
Daniel, last name?
Penisi. You continue to make the argument that this is being passed down from Governor Murphy. There's no sense beating a dead horse, but it seems like maybe we have to beat a dead horse here. It's already been well documented over the past year, the negative effects that masks have on kids. It's been well documented. Suicides, depression, anxiety. I myself had to be hospitalized, not for COVID, which I did contract, but for a skin infection that I suffered as a result of wearing the mask. Now, the reality is that although this is being passed down from Governor Murphy, it's coming through all of you. So if you have any reservations about anything, now is the time to not just hide behind, it's over our heads. It's above our pay grade, like Governor Murphy said. Everyone keeps reminding you that you're elected officials, right? It's clear to see that you talk about climate and environment. This is absurd. This is an absurd environment that you're creating for kids. I just went to the bathroom. There's an X over one of the mirrors. There's an X over one of the urinals. It's absurd. And as somebody else said, it's time to start pushing back against these things that are being handed down. You can't just lay down and teach kids that the worst thing to fear is a virus. It's horrible. We've all seen the effects. We've all felt the effects personally. Societies have survived through pandemics, epidemics, throughout history. They've never been able to survive the loss of civil liberty like we're witnessing right now. Never. You're teaching kids that the virus is the worst thing. You're teaching them to be intolerant of others in the process. You're teaching them to not show any compassion or empathy for others if they're those people. I'm seeing a lot of heads shaking in the crowd as these people are speaking. We see it going on all around us. So you may have a kid who's coming into school who has reservations about wearing a mask because he's struggling to get out of his front door in the morning. And what are you teaching everybody else? You're teaching everybody else to scoff and laugh at that kid. There's this thin layer of compassion that everybody keeps saying is behind all this. It's a sham. It's about compulsion, not compassion. This is the time for you to act. Because, as somebody else just said, now it's masks. What happens if something gets handed down from up above, from the state, saying that kids who have COVID can't go home until they've had a negative COVID test? That parents can't come get their kids from school? Are you just going to enforce those things? Now we have to ask these questions when it can still be civil and we can have this sort of discourse. That's all.
Good evening, Seton Chalia from Fairfield. I have a sophomore. So right here, I typed it up for you, a proposal for Governor Murphy. I know in the beginning of your meeting, you said this is not an option. I have it right here for you to sign for our children. If you sign this tonight, all the anger and the frustration that these parents here are having will be slightly over. We need your support. That's what we elected you for, to support our children. If you do not sign this tonight, it's obvious. West Essex does not follow the science, they follow the money. In that case, I really think that you should all step down tonight and we elect a board of education that actually will take our children's health into consideration. You guys don't have kids in the school system, do you? In this school system? Where our children have to sit for 7 and 8 hours with a mask on? Let me just get you the facts again. When you are wearing a mask, carbon dioxide goes up. Blood oxygen levels go down. Then your heart rate goes up. Your respiratory rate goes up. And you put this beautiful spread together. Do you think they're going to be able to retain any information with a blood oxygen level that's decreased? The blood oxygen level to the brain is decreased? Absolutely not. I give them 5 minutes to retain any information. I've been in the medical field for decades. I am telling you this based on science, not money. You guys all have to get a backbone and stand up to Governor Murphy. On the other hand, Mr. Bertocci sent out an email to us. And on the email, there were several links that you could click on. And I was sick to my stomach when I opened one of those links. One of those links are educating teachers how to enforce the vaccinations in our classroom. Okay? And all of you guys open the links. These are non-medical professionals teaching our children about vaccines, about getting the vaccines. In the article, okay, they're taking this training and they need to promote vaccinations with incentives. Dissect the email. I am so sick because I would never. Okay, I'm wrapping it up. It's like me going into a Spanish class and trying to speak Spanish and teach Spanish to these students. We're having non-medical professionals trying to teach medicine to our children about vaccines. This is a disgrace. I will leave the letter up here for you.
Scott Gorman, 4 Cooper Avenue in Roseland. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Scott Gorman, 4 Cooper Avenue in Roseland. Can you hear me okay?
Now I can.
Okay. Thank you. So this evening I'm speaking as the parent of an incoming 8th grader. And I want to begin by thanking you, Madam President, and the board, because I recognize that we are very fortunate to have members of our community who generously volunteer their time in the name of public service. Beyond that, you carry yourself, I've seen you carry yourself with professionalism and very respectful of the public. You do so without receiving any financial compensation, and for that, I am grateful. For over 40 years, proof of vaccination has been a requirement for public school students. There's been no commotion regarding the U.S. Constitution with respect to that issue, and for good reason. The issue was settled by the United States Supreme Court over 115 years ago. And we just saw the data a moment ago regarding the rates of the increase in COVID cases and positive tests in northern New Jersey over the summer. The numbers have steadily gone upwards. In New Jersey alone, the numbers have gone up 9-fold in the last 60 days alone. If students, in order to attend a public school, must show proof of protection from things like diphtheria, smallpox, and polio, I can think of no principled reason why they should not have to show proof of protection against a virus that has been ravaging the planet for the past year and a half. The choice that parents have had for decades has been a simple one. Either show proof of vaccination or don't send your kids to public school. That tradition should continue.
Everyone has a chance to speak. Please don't interrupt the speaker.
Thank you. So, I would just urge this board that when presented with a choice between safeguarding the health and safety of our students, our children, or convenience, that you choose health and safety every time. Thank you.
Let your kids get the vaccine. Let them
Excuse me.
You don't speak for all of us. What'd you come for?
Excuse me. Do you want me to ask you to leave? Everyone has the opportunity to speak here tonight. If you would like to get up and speak, you have the opportunity to speak. Everyone is free to speak and say what they want.
I'm Teresa Mendez from North Caldwell. The numbers have gone up because masks and lockdowns don't work. And that's been proven by all the states that have implemented them, and they suffer the same numbers we do. Almost every state has vaccine exemptions. New Jersey has religious and medical because this is a free country. Our founding fathers created a government that would protect our rights. Are there any history teachers here? Anybody know about the, yeah, okay. Oh yeah, good, okay, back there's a history teacher. In the Declaration of Independence, we declared our intention to cast off a king that wasn't half as bad as you people. And we declared that we have inalienable rights. That means they were endowed by God and cannot be infringed upon by governors, unelected CDC members, presidents, or that guy. We're being polite, but you've restricted our kids' breathing, you've locked them down, you've isolated them, and only kids in New Jersey and other states and some states have to put up with this. There are kids and teenagers in some states that have been free and healthy. They see smiles. They have educators who look in their eyes, who care about the way they're feeling. Why are our kids not experiencing that? We have rights. They are inalienable. Our children also have rights. They have to breathe unrestricted. This is not polite anymore. You're hurting our children. Please reconsider this. You're Americans. We have rights. Stand up for them. That's it.
Do you have anyone else? Any other comments or questions?
Stacy Aschenbach, Fairfield. Although I agree with whatever everyone is saying here, my concerns tonight are assuming nothing is going to be done and we're going forward starting school with masks. I want to know if there's any medical issues that arise from wearing these masks. We're eligible to put in a claim to the school, such as if they get injured in a sports-related school activity. And when I say medical-related issues, I'm talking dermatology, dental, pulmonology. There's several things. So I just want to know if medical claims are available, especially to those who don't have insurance. That's number one. And number two, is the school physician available? Was it Dr. Schlom or I don't know offhand? Dr. Schlom available to attest to the fact that masks being worn for 8 hours is okay for the kids?
You're asking if he would attest to that?
Yes. Is he, I know the attorneys are sometimes available at these. We're talking medical issues. I don't think anyone on board is in the medical field. So I just think it would have been appropriate to have the representative of the school physician here tonight to answer many of the concerns the parents have.
I mean, we could call him and see if he can come.
Okay. And as I said, I want to know about the medical claims because I think that is going to be a big problem this year. And also the presentation you guys gave was great, but several times the mic went off and I heard people say, I can't hear you, what's up? So are the teachers going to be equipped with mics in the classroom? So when the teachers have a mask and the child has a mask and they can't hear, is it going to be animated? Those are my questions. Thank you.
Our school physician is part of our medical advisory committee, as well as other physicians and healthcare professionals, as I mentioned earlier. So as we move through the school year, this committee will be part of discussions related to health and safety, and Dr. Schlam is our school physician, and he will be part of that. As far as medical claims, I have to look into that, and we can get back to you on that. I have to consult with the business office on that. And then, I don't remember, I think you had one other question? Oh, the teachers.
Yes, because I know there's kids who are going up there, although there's a lot of kids that, may not hear properly, and it's up and asking of the child and the teacher with the assistance of what is being said.
Some of our classrooms are equipped, but not all at this time.
Anyone else like to come?
Hi everyone, I'm Suzanne Corbo in North Caldwell. The last meeting, I think Seton Charlie hit upon a good point, was the mental health of the kids. So obviously they have to wear the mask, but my words were misconstrued, and I think from the last time I spoke, people assumed that I said wearing masks caused eating disorders and suicides, which I did not. It's just the culmination and the effects of COVID. So wearing masks causes anxiety, anxiety causes depression, and it goes on and on. So we did have a suicide, as we know here, and I'm just wondering, the email was sent out, it was the last day of school before Christmas break. Do we know, did any of our students actually call a counselor for help? Because then everyone went on Christmas break for 10 days, so it's just, I was wondering, I know we have the resource, but I think we have to be more proactive before, God forbid, it gets to the point where we lose another student, and then the counselors are there. So maybe we need a weekly, I don't know, meeting or something about the mental health for the kids, to do something, to just be proactive and just open about talking and not waiting for them to come.
So, Mrs. Corbo, thanks for your comments. What I will say is we do have supports in place for mental health. It's a nice presentation. Dr. Dunleavy, Mrs. Simmons, talks about the SEL piece in the buildings and having our staff members available for our kids. I think the principal put out an email last week trying to see if there were any students that maybe were anxious about coming back to school, and I know that our guidance department in the buildings were reaching out to individual families directly that responded to the Google form. And we have a team of people that is available, and we have structured supports in place to address that.
But it's more the kids have to go to that, right? Where, I guess, I don't know. It's a concern. So, all right, thank you.
Lisa Holt, our guidance director, she had mentioned at one of our other presentations that we were reaching out to students during the course of the year just to check in with mental health programs. In Tanya Simmons had said the same thing. During the course of the year, they were reaching out to students and families just to check on mental health issues. Anyone else?
Good evening, Andrzej Rząca from North Carolina. I would like to speak about masks and voting for our children, standing up for the right thing. In the past, Marian Korski was a German survivor from Auschwitz. Not too long ago, he said, just before the war, German people in Germany, slowly by little, first, they were not allowed to be in the parks, with a little bit, not allowed to be in the public places after 5 p.m., then another step, then another step, we know the rest of the history. Separations, human to human, lead out to death in many million people. Today, we're standing and we have the mask already on our faces. What's next? Are you going to stand up for the right, what's right? Or you're just going to listen to our governor, just like before they were listening to Hitler and all, who later dictate to other people how to abuse another person. Our children and the rest of us here, they want to be free in a free country, just like you are. Stand up what's right. We demand this from you. We pay our taxes for you. It's our responsibility, also a privilege to be in a free country. Let it continue. God bless America.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Robert Rosania again from Fairfield, being that nobody else would like to speak. I'll just take a couple more minutes of your time. And this is regarding the slide that you showed for the rise in corona cases this August. Well, this year, we have the vaccine. So how are the cases still on the rise when in 2020, we saw the coronavirus follow a pattern like the seasonal flu, which means there was a decrease in cases over the summertime. Does this not raise any concerns to you about this vaccination? And also, why is it in Israel, the most vaccinated country in the world, has the most hospitalizations? 85 to 90% of their hospitalizations have been of vaccinated people. That's all I have to say for you.
Thank you all for coming tonight. We really do appreciate your comments. Dan, would you like to reach out?